Welcome to Gorilla Sports Off Field. I am your host, Liv Moods, and joined in just a moment by Nate Jackson. And this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. So head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. It is Thursday. Happy Friday Eve. I'm Liv Moods. That's Nate Jackson. And we've got some things to discuss, all things football. I know some of you are probably thinking, football? Why
What the
football?
hell? What?
There's no football being played, but there's always football to be discussed. And that is what we're doing here on this show, is just discussing the good old game of pigskin. Huh? That's what we're doing.
Well, you know, the NFL is so good at making football relevant all year long.
Always.
And the draft is coming up, and that's a made-for-TV event. That's a nationally televised event. Shoot, the draft will get more eyeballs on it than, like, an NBA Finals game.
Okay, now he's dramatic.
It's true.
Now he's so dramatic.
It's true, though. And it's the NFL, the intrigue that they've created in some of these young stars coming out. But I know there's a lot of exciting stuff going on in the NBA. However, we do love our Broncos, and we're going to talk a little bit about Broncos.
Of course we do. Yes, of course we do. We do love the Broncos a lot. And we've been talking about their off-season moves. We actually put out some report cards just the other day on our thoughts and feelings on how the Denver Broncos have handled the free agency period and some of the moves that they've made. I think overall, between you and I and BK, we all feel pretty good about what the Broncos have done so far.
Oh, yeah, it's hard not to.
Right.
It's hard not to, because they seem to have filled a couple voids on defense.
Mm-hmm.
We're pretty aggressive. Got a joker guy on offense, Evan Ingram, relative to other jokers or other non-jokers that the Broncos have tried and failed to use in that position. But I think the Broncos, and then they, re-signed some of their own guys.
Mm-hmm.
They signed Trent Sherfield, who's a receiver, who's a special teams guy. They got themselves a punter. But I feel like he might be in competition with another guy at some point.
Okay.
But punter.
How important is a punter?
Punter competitions are really probably the most exciting part of training camp. Am I right? No, I'm just kidding. How important is a punter, you ask?
I mean, of course it's important, but it's just like if you're like if you've got a tight budget.
Yeah,
I think that's sometimes an oversight.
Yeah.
It's just like, punter, who needs them? But we also see punters come up very big for teams when it matters most. So,
yeah, the field position game is really important, and having a consistent punter who they're going to kick it right when you call it right. They're going to kick it right, because like a lot of people don't understand. They think, you just go punt it, you just kick it as high and as far as you can, and then the guys just go run and cover it.
Yeah, but now we've got the new kick.
No, that's the kickoff rules. The kickoff is different than the punts. Punts are still the same. But I know there's so much to keep track of.
I'm gonna be honest. I did not track the kick return. I didn't.
Yeah, nobody did.
It was too complicated for me. Yeah. And actually, as a matter of fact, when I met up with Debo a couple times and did our show, I asked him, who plays in the NFL, his thoughts on it, and he's like, I can't figure out. Like, I don't understand. I think it's very overcomplicated.
I think it was a mistake that they made.
Are they going to backtrack?
I don't know. Apparently there was a 1-year trial, and they're going to kind of go back and review it and see if it was effective. The thing that they're saying, though, the thing that they're saying is that they're preventing injuries by changing it. Okay. And really,
and then 2 seconds later, bam. I mean,
that's what it comes down to. It comes down to the NFL doing this lip service game where they try to paint themselves as concerned with the health and safety of the players who are playing the game. And so they're trying to make certain plays safer to reduce the number of injuries. But in my opinion,
such a fine line, though.
100% of football players get hurt anyway. There's a reason why we play the games, because we know it's violent, because we know we're going to get hurt.
And you like violence.
We like the violence. I want to get punched in the face sometimes, and I don't. I don't have anyone to hit me anymore, and it sucks. I want to do it. anybody do it.
I certainly, I can wind up right now if you like.
Physical pain is just such an old friend, and then I find comfort in that friend sometimes, and I just don't have that friend around. So sometimes when I do feel physical pain, or like I fall or do something crazy, like get cut open, I just sit there laughing at this wound as it drips blood onto the carpet.
So you're a psychopath.
That's fun. Yes, and so are all these other football players.
Fair.
Okay. We want to run down full speed and go hit somebody. That's what football is. That's what the audience wants, the fans want. That's what the moment of the beginning of a football game is supposed to be about. And everyone's running, sprinting. There's no more of that. There's no more running, sprinting, hurting, killing. There's no more of that. Live. And I think it's the NFL's lost a little bit of the edge.
I'm good with the killing thing. Just
it's all metaphorical.
Put on the back burner.
Nobody's dying. It's a metaphor, but you do feel yourself as some kind of modern day gladiator. I think some of that's been taken away from the kickoff rule. I would like to see them change that. But back to the punt, when you're in a huddle, and we huddle before punts too, and it's like, okay, deep right. So we know going into the punt that he's going to kick it deep right. And so if he's a shitty punter and he shanks it to the left, all your cover men are going right to cover your punt. And all of a sudden you kick it to the opposite side and there's nobody there to corral it. So that's why a punter is important. The hang time, of course, is important, the depth, but also the directional punting and the ability to kind of kick it exactly where you want and exactly where the coach said is going to kick it, so we can all converge on that returner. So
and it's definitely a more complicated job than people think it is. I think there's a lot of people that think they could just grab a football and punt it just fine, and newsflash, probably not.
No.
So just relax before you insert your opinions. Okay?
Yeah.
Just give it a try and make sure you film it too. Yeah. I need receipts of you being such a great punter before you insert your opinion. But
this new punter, apparently, and I read this, I don't know if it's true, because you read a lot of stuff on social media.
Of course.
But apparently Bo Nix called him up and said, you're not going to be doing a lot of punting. Don't worry about it.
Where did you find that?
I saw it on Twitter.
Who got into his call log? Who
bugged
his house?
I don't fucking know. Exactly.
Right.
But here's the thing.
Did his wife expose him? His private
she does
phone
have
call?
Instagram. But Caleb Williams said the same thing last year.
Oof.
And I'm like, that's when I saw that. I'm like, don't say that. Because you do have to.
I'm hoping that's fake news.
Yeah.
Chat, can we get a fact check on that? I'm really hoping that's fake news because, you don't want to jinx yourself.
No. Because
because let's be real.
Who knows how it's gonna go?
Let's be real, and let's get into the first.
Let's get into it because this leads right into it.
This leads right into it. Let's be real. There were some things that the Broncos needed to be a little bit better on, a little bit sharper, a little more precise when it comes to their offensive game.
Yes,
there was a lot you could take away from last year and be very excited about because it is the start of a new chapter here in Denver. The start of a rebranded Broncos team, which you gotta love to see, given how many years it's been since we've felt like we could talk trash on Twitter, feel good, smile on a Sunday. It's been a long, it's been a long couple of decades, actually. But there's still some offensive needs that need to be addressed. I think in our report card yesterday, some of the questions that we were asked by the wonderful Chloe, who was putting these graphics together. Shout out Chloe. Was we talked about roster needs, cost efficiency, player fit, and aggressiveness. And roster needs was my lowest grade because of course the run game is still something that I would imagine come the draft that is going to be very strongly addressed and a huge priority for this Broncos team. But I would say that's kind of, in my opinion, one of the big needs still. One of the is the running backs.
It is. And this is a more nuanced issue than just like, we don't have the right running backs in the room, because Sean Payton he's the play caller. He decided game after game not to really, rely on the run as much as we wanted him to. We want to see him run the ball. He wanted to see him run the ball. That's why he wrote "run it" on his script. But he couldn't do that either, right?
Sean, you got to remind yourself to run it. That's crazy.
Yeah. Then you're probably so I think some of this like hope we have for a running back to come in here and set the league on fire, it's not going to freaking happen. This is just not who Sean Payton is. Sean Payton doesn't want a Derrick Henry type of guy. He doesn't want a Saquon Barkley type of guy.
Why the F not? Look at how that worked out for some teams this year.
Yeah, but those guys, that's not Sean. I mean, Sean's, if you look back at Sean Payton's history as a head coach, why are you huffing and puffing? I'm gonna give you some good stuff
because I just think sometimes he can just be a little stubborn old fart.
Relative to
Well, he has
been coaching. for 17 seasons as a head coach.
And he's successful. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But I think the game evolves. The game changes. The
Yeah,
things that worked in New Orleans may not work anymore. And time will tell. I'm not telling Sean how to do his job. Just kidding. I am. He won't listen. It doesn't matter. He doesn't need to listen to me. Who am I?
What if he's watching though right now, Sean?
Hey,
Sean, come on down.
Come on, Sean.
Come on off field,
Come
Sean.
hang out. But no, I think that there's a tiny little aspect of we watched a very clear pattern with the teams that made it to the playoffs, and it was confidence in their run game. It was knowing that you have that guy that in the Super Bowl, Saquon Barkley was not him. He really wasn't that guy, but you knew you had him. So you played a certain style of football that allowed you to maybe take some more risks and get a little more creative because you knew if that fails, we've still got Saquon Barkley. So I think there's an element of, I get that Sean doesn't want a Derrick Henry or a Saquon Barkley, but it just gives you some insurance. It's an insurance policy on your offense. So why wouldn't you get insurance, folks?
Well, because every time Sean Payton hands the ball off to a Derrick Henry or a running back who gets 4 yards, he's not throwing the ball downfield for a 70-yard touchdown. All right? And for Sean Payton, he wants the fireworks. He was a college quarterback. He holds the record at Eastern Illinois for most passing yards in a game as a quarterback. Sean Payton does.
Shout out, Sean.
Shout out, Sean. Over 500 yards passing in one game. And Bo Nix has never done that. Jared Stidham's never done that. None of those guys. Sean's done that.
He wants to
He wants to do that same thing. The pocket magician who's just dialing it. Drew Brees did that for many years. And so
of course,
where I was leaning towards as far as like what to expect from the running backs, the running backs in his system catch a lot of fucking passes. It's not just about running the ball and taking the handoff and grounding it out. And not only that, but he likes to use two running backs. The year he got to New Orleans, 2006, he had a two-headed monster at running back, Deuce McAllister and Reggie Bush. Thunder and lightning.
Who was the Thunder?
Thunder was Deuce McAllister. Okay. He was the big bruiser. Lightning was Reggie Bush. And guess
what?
Bang. And Reggie Bush had a ton of catches. And the tight end, so when he talks about the Joker, what we should expect one of these running backs to come in to be a Joker type of guy.
Yeah.
Reggie Bush had a ton of catches. There was a stretch where Darren Sproles had, in 2011 when Jimmy Graham led the league as a tight end for the New Orleans Saints, had 99 catches. Darren Sproles had 86 catches as a running back. The next year he had 75 and Jimmy Graham had 85. This was a pattern for them. The next year Jimmy Graham had 86 and Darren Sproles had 71. When his offense is clicking, the running backs are catching a lot of passes and so are the tight ends. And that's what they haven't done here since Sean Payton got here. So I think like the improvements that the Broncos offense is going to make, and they have to make improvements because they were bottom half of the league in yards last year. They were 10th in points, but some of that was because of the pick sixes and fumble recoveries to the house that the defense scored on. So this was a bottom half offense last year. As excited as we are about Bo, this offense needs to get better, and it starts with the running back productivity, not just handing the ball off, but receptions. And they did have a lot of catches last year, but even more so. And then really the tight end productivity. I think Evan Ingram is going to look, make this. But then there's going to be another one, because not only did, the New Orleans Saints teams rely on two running backs, but it also relied on throwing the ball to two different tight ends. And so because there's a lot of two tight end sets that he likes to do, because that creates mismatches as well. So this offense has to get better. And it's going to get better by getting more versatile pass catchers in the tight end and running back roles.
So can I just bring up I'm going to draw a parallel between the Broncos actually and the Nuggets. Slow down.
Whoa.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say is the Denver Nuggets, Coach Malone, have made it very clear they are not succumbing to the trend, if you will, of living and dying by the three-pointer. They have an offense game plan that works really well for them. They still are scoring at a very high level, but they're not living and dying by the three. Well, there are some games where that bites them in the behind because there's teams that are living and dying by the three. And I think if you're not going to follow that trend like everybody else, you have to be perfect at what you are doing, because you're kind of eliminating something else that could help your offense. I feel similarly about Sean Payton being so pass happy and not consistently practicing the run game and committing to it. I think
Yeah.
he's still going to have commitment issues with it next year, to your point. He's going to want a running back that can be a joker, that can catch as much as he can run. I worry that unless they are perfect in passing,
Yeah.
you put yourself at a disadvantage when other teams are able to do both. It's like a question of, do you get really stinking good at the pass game and then just not so great at the run game?
The
Or
Chiefs
do
have kind
you
of done that, right? And
Yeah, but I mean, God, I love Bo Nix, but we don't know what the second year brings with Bo Nix, So I think that's just it's a very not a risky game plan, because I think what we saw from Bo Nix last year you really liked. There was a
Yeah.
lot you liked about that, but I don't know. I think it might put them at a disadvantage to be so focused on being pass happy. I worry about that a little
Well,
tiny bit.
I agree with you, and I think this does lead us into the second quarter.
It does.
When
You know me, and a good little
segue.
good little segue. Love it.
Have you
Aren't they
ever?
called Segway scooters?
Yeah. Have you ever? I imagine you guys have one of them.
No, I did when I was young. I had one of those pink ones.
Yeah.
Had a little kickstand. I was zooming through the neighborhood. Couldn't stop me.
A kickstand on your Segway?
It was a Razor's like moped.
It
Is that not what a
motorized?
Segway is?
No, Segway is one of those things you just stand on. Like,
Oh, I fear I
it's
would
like I got
probably.
a platform.
I fear I would probably fall off of one of those.
Yeah, or those little hoverboard things that were big
Oh,
for a
tried
while.
one of those. Didn't go well.
Fall on your butt.
Yep, tailbone.
You're not alone.
Mm.
What about the electric scooters? Do you ride those around when you're downtown?
No, not really. Because I don't frequent downtown like that. But if I do, I'm usually wearing like high heeled boots. So like,
Yeah.
not
Those things
sure.
are gross too, because
Yeah,
they've
the
never been
germs.
washed. Literally never been washed. Once those people like Lime or Bird or whatever, once they drop them on the streets, they never have to touch them again. They contract people to go and pick them up and take them home and charge them at their own house, and they pay them
Oh,
for
ew,
it.
gross. Come on.
And all they got to do is be on the street for 2 weeks, and they turn a profit on them. So they expect them to break. They're made cheaply. They're rolling toilets. Don't touch them with your hands. If you do, don't touch your eyes.
toilets.
Don't touch your eyeballs after. You will get some syphilis in your eyes from that.
Syphilis. You know what? I realized during the era of COVID, the amount of times, this is going to sound disgusting, and like I've just never been a germaphobe like that ever. Like I just don't think about. It's not on my daily conscious to think about germs.
Yeah.
Because they're everywhere. If I thought about them all the time, I would go insane.
Yeah.
But the amount of times that I would just like pump gas and then get in the car and like grab a Chick-fil-A chicken nugget that was sitting there and just pop it in my mouth. Like
Yeah.
COVID made me realize like that's foul. Like, of course, you know the typical like washing your hands after the
Yeah.
bathroom, washing your hands when you do this, like, but like pumping gas and then running errands, and I'm
Yeah.
on the steering wheel. Now the germs are
Yeah.
on the steering wheel, and then I'm grabbing
Yeah. Like who knows what the dude was
COVID.
doing who pumped his gas right before you?
Probably picking his boogers in his butt.
At the best. I mean, what else was happening in that car with the tinted windows?
I don't want to know.
Ew.
Sick.
Okay.
Anyway, so
we can get into the
that
second
being
quarter
said,
here.
I feel like I need some sanitizer here in just a moment.
Yeah.
I can feel them. But second quarter, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Year two.
Yeah.
So I brought up Bo Nix in year two.
Yeah.
Bo Nix, great in year one. Lot you can love about what you saw from Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Kind of tough when you set the standard high in year one.
That's a really good point, because now these teams know what to expect with Bo.
There you go.
Right. And so there's a book out on Bo.
Mm-hmm.
And so his game's going to have to improve. He knows that. But also Sean Payton's going to have to improve his play calling. And like we were talking about in the last quarter, a more diverse sort of attack to take some pressure off of Bo and to make him not so vulnerable in the pocket. Bo still has a lot to learn when it comes to reading defenses and stepping up in the pocket, buying himself time in the pocket, not getting out of the pocket and trying to make something happen with his legs, which he can do. He took a lot of people by surprise because he's so fleet-footed and he's quick and he's more athletic than people thought.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's not going to surprise anyone. Now they're ready for him. He ran for almost 500 yards last year. I don't want him to always feel like he has to do that. You know,
his body's not going to.
No, he's already broke 3 bones in his back, and he had an ankle or a knee surgery already. So in Bo's second season, it really, to me, it comes down to using the tight ends better and using the running backs more effectively. I think the wide receiver room is coming along pretty good. I was hopeful that they would add Cooper Kupp, but he went to Seattle.
Seahawk. Yeah.
And that's cool.
It's kind of crazy.
There's still a question. Do you add a veteran receiver in that room? Somebody who can, more of a route runner, could take a little heat off of Cortland Sutton and But I don't know. I mean, Keenan Allen's a name that's out there. Tyler Lockett. I don't know. Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs. I don't really love any of those guys to come in here. And I have seen some mock drafts in which the Broncos are thought to maybe choose a receiver at 20. This dude from Arizona, and I can't say his name, but he's like a Samoan dude, and he's a freak. He's like 6'5".
He's a freak.
He is. He's incredible.
Love that.
Right?
I love that.
So you got to think with the defensive additions that they made, they're probably going to go offensive with the first pick, skill position player. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a cornerback. Because I think that's the only sort of weak link on the Broncos defense right now, even though Riley Moss played well. He's just too unproven to me over a long period of time to consider him a stalwart at that position. I think they could try to upgrade that one and then have Riley on the roster. The more corners you have, the better. If guys get hurt, you need guys to play nickel. Our very own Brandon Cristal said that maybe Riley would move inside and compete with Jaquan McMillan for the nickel corner, and they would add a new corner on the opposite side of Patrick Surtain. I'm sure that conversation's happening. What they'll do there, I don't know. But running back, tight end, and maybe a receiver high. And I think that stuff. But again, they're going to be rookies. They're going to be young. They're not going to know the system. They're going to be. You can't rely on them week one.
But thankfully, they're going to be playing under a quarterback that had such an interesting and successful rookie season that I think Bo, despite being young relative to
other
relative to
older people,
how many years he's been in the league, because he's actually not like young.
No, he's like 24, 25.
Right. So just in terms of how many years he's been in the league, he's considered young. And I do think that's a really great leader to have running your offense, because he's going to have a little bit of that patience knowing that they are rookies, because he didn't let himself get too hard on himself last year.
Yeah.
And I think he had a lot of support around him when he would make mistakes. And there were times that we saw the defense even pumping Bo up as he was walking to the sideline. So I just think it's a really good culture to be, like you said, the Broncos are a final destination that I think a lot of people have their eyes on, because they see the culture that Sean Payton is building right now. They see what Bo Nix was able to do in his first year. They see how Sean Payton has turned things around. They see the defense, and then they see how aggressive they've been in the offseason. So I think the Broncos are a very appealing team to a lot of players, especially rookies. I think playing under Sean Payton, having a leader like Bo Nix, those are things that can only make you better. I mean, again, I'm not trying to be rude here, but if I'm a rookie receiver, I'm not sure I want to play. If it's between playing under Bo Nix or Caleb Williams, I think you know my answer.
Caleb.
There's just certain things that Bo possesses that make him one of one.
What are those things?
His leadership.
Yeah.
I was very blown away. This will show everybody what I care about in my relationships, and I'm a people person. I love having interaction with people. I take that far more serious than anything else in life. And he's really great at you can just tell he's good people.
Down to earth.
Yes. And just
humble, hardworking.
Humble. That
One
is
of the
it
dudes
right there.
could probably have a good time if you go out, but he wouldn't be the guy who's dancing on the bar. He'd be having a good time, and he'd be there to pull you down off the bar if you were going
right. He'd be like,
hard.
"Hey, this is embarrassing. You're going to be on TMZ."
He could probably
tomorrow.
He could probably handle his liquor. He'll.
I don't even think he drinks.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean? I think he's sober. I read an article once that him and his wife, they don't
That's
drink.
right. He's a fairly religious fella.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
he's married.
You said, what do you mean? What do you mean?
What I'm saying is you can be religious, you can be married, and you can still tie one on with the fellas,
of course,
once in a while,
of course.
Right? And so, can you handle those moments as well? And those kind of make you one of the guys. So, in my interviews of Mike Shanahan last year, I was talking to him about his coaching journey.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got to the San Francisco 49ers, it was a pretty interesting experience for a guy like him to be an offensive coordinator, because Joe Montana was beloved in the locker room, but he had an injury and he was on his way out. They were actually about to trade him. Mike Shanahan was a coach of both Joe Montana and Steve Young at the same time. Steve Young, a future Hall of Famer, backed up Joe Montana for several years, even though he was super good and ready to become a starter. But Joe was so beloved and was, of course, Joe Montana. When Joe finally got shipped out, Steve had a hard time ingratiating himself with the guys. Steve would go to Mike and be like, they hate me. What am I doing wrong? And he's like, you got to go go out with him, be one of the guys. And Steve's like, I don't drink, I don't party, I'm married. He's like, you don't have to drink. You don't have to party. Be their designated driver. Just go out and hang out with them.
Mm-hmm.
Show them they can trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that. And he, sat there while they got drunk and was the shoulder for them to cry on and drove them home and got them back home.
That's very sweet.
Yep. And what do you know it? They came together as a team. They started to trust each other.
It matters.
And Steve Young became their leader, and he won a Super Bowl and finally got the monkey off his back in that famous, scene where he's like, I got the monkey. So, and he threw 6 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, Steve Young did. And Mike Shanahan was able to kind of psychologically lead him through that world of not being able to connect with his teammates. Bo doesn't have that problem. Russ does. Russell Wilson has that problem, right? And so we don't always understand how important that stuff is going to be. It's not just about how strong your arm is and like how tall you are and how fast you are. No, it's
how
about
emotionally mature are you?
Just like you said, with the people stuff, with the interactions with other human beings. And Bo Nix seems to be really good at that.
So yeah, these rookies that are coming into this team, I just think you've got the picture perfect leader.
Yeah.
2 of them, Sean Payton and Sean Payton's a tough cookie, but I think Bo Nix learned pretty early on how to deal with Sean, how to spit it back at him a little bit, but also respect him. And I think he can, teach the rookies that as well. So you mentioned drinking and being emotional. Do men get emotional when they drink?
Sure. Oh yeah.
That's a universal thing.
I don't think every man gets emotional when he drinks.
Do you? He starts crying.
Woo! I mean, it depends on
depends on the alcohol for me.
It depends on the emotion. Like, I guess your emotional state. Like, if you're already super sad and then you go and get drunk, you're probably gonna get more sad. If you're, you got like a lot of pent up rage, or you're like bottled up, and then you go drinking, and like you might get all freaking raging, and want to fight. Why do dudes want to fight when they get drunk?
Oh God!
And why do girls like take their shoes off? And end up walking barefoot on the concrete.
You won't catch me walking barefoot on the concrete. Oh no.
Okay, well, a lot of females do after a lot because
maybe I have once.
You guys
or
wear
twice.
uncomfortable shoes out, and then you get drunk. And you're like, these shoes aren't really that comfortable. I'm gonna take them off.
Right.
And then you like drop down 9 inches, and it's like, oh, who's this little person?
I start to get paranoid when I feel like I might be like sick because I do not like getting sick. So when I start to like get an upset tummy, that's when I'm like, I get really whiny, and I'm like, get me out.
Yeah.
Take me somewhere. Put me in a cold
My
bath.
tum hurts.
My tummy hurts. Yeah, I get stressed.
Why did you ask the question about men being emotional?
I don't know. You said it, and I was just like,
yeah. I mean, for sure. Like, that's why what I was talking about, Bo being like the level-headed guy, because he's a level-headed guy on the field.
Level-headed is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Level-headed.
And you know what? Our coaches would always talk about that. You don't get too high. You don't get too low. You act like you've been there. You take it all in stride.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if things don't go right, you don't start, oh God, what are we gonna do? No, you don't do that.
You know who does that?
Who?
You know who acts like an emotional like drunk when things don't go right?
Who?
Aaron Rodgers.
Does he?
Here's my thing. There is a certain element to life where you don't always have to show people how you feel.
Yeah.
Like, internalize some of that and work through it yourself and handle it. But I'm not saying all of it, because some stuff you got to feel it out. You got to just let your feelings feel.
Yeah.
But there's a time and a place.
Well, I think that leads us into halftime.
It does. I'm so good at these segues.
Wow. You must
it's like I do this for a living or something.
Yeah, I know. You must be a professional.
When do you walk away from the sports you love? Halftime performance, halftime show. You buy. Should Aaron Rodgers retire? No.
.com.
But really, though, this is, I poke a lot of fun at Aaron Rodgers because I do just find him extraordinarily annoying. I do. It's just, it is what it is. And I'm sure many of the people watching the show find me extraordinarily annoying. So, like, whatever.
Come on.
It's subjective anyway. But contemplating retirement, knowing when to walk away.
Yeah.
How much of that... At what point, because we see it with players a lot where like sometimes their career ends for them.
Yeah.
That feels like it might be easier. Now,
it's easier in different ways.
Because I will say my fiance had a blown out knee.
How does that sound, saying fiance?
Weird.
It's a weird word.
Yeah.
Get married as soon as you can, because you don't want to say that word for too long.
It's very weird. I don't like it at all. But
you go from boyfriend to fiance.
Yeah.
Why isn't there an English word for that? Why do we have to use
I
the
don't know.
French?
Like, what would you say? Boyfriend to
about to get married.
almost husband?
There's gotta be a better word. We gotta find words.
Yeah. So anyway, my fiance blew out his knee. He was a very great soccer player. He played D1 soccer. He had a lot of international teams and pro teams interested in him, and he literally will tell this story that he wasn't, just that internal battle of, what do I do with soccer? Is this for me? Do I keep going down this path? God, give me a sign if there's a sign. His knee goes out.
Oh, then he went out after he asked God to give him a sign about what he should do with his soccer?
Like maybe the same day.
Oh.
Or the day before. Like
Wow.
it was one of those oh wow, hard to deny this moment right here.
Yeah.
But he also battles to this day the fact that the end of his career was not in his control.
Yeah.
His ego, I think, sometimes struggles with the idea that this was not my choice.
Yep.
I didn't decide this. I wanted the opportunity to walk into the office and say, I'm done.
Yeah.
He didn't get that.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that there's both, and I'll let you weigh in because you have also dealt with that. But I think I'm watching him kind of battling that, the ego part of it, which is he knows how good he was. He knows how he could have kept going. He knows how strong, and fast and quick and whatever. But he'll never know. It was always the wondering, and I think it differently for you. You did get to the pro level and get to play for seasons but still it didn't end on your terms.
No.
So do you feel
And
like
it
you still
rarely
deal
does.
with that?
I did for a while.
Okay.
But at a certain point, I had to accept that I did everything I could to keep
Mhm.
going. I didn't leave anything out there. I didn't leave any stone unturned. I
Yeah.
played as long as I possibly could. Most athletes don't get to call their own shot and walk off and be like, you know what? I've had a good run and it's time for me to walk away. Most guys, because the average career in the NFL is under 3 years. So you're still trying to play. And and you can get cut for the last time, but not know it's the last time.
Right.
And your agent is telling you stay in shape. This team might need this team. So it's actually it takes a year or two for most players to actually realize it's over when their agent won't call them back anymore and nobody's calling anymore. And it's just you just kind of fade away. You don't have the moment where you get to stand up and say, I'm walking away. You don't have a press conference. Most people
Right.
don't announce their retirement. They
Right.
just disappear and you never think about them again. That's why what Aaron Rodgers is going through, what Von Miller is going through right now, what a lot of, some of the more famous players are going through is they actually get to decide when to walk away. Because if they want, they could take less money and go on a team with a lesser role. But that's not what they ever want to do. Von Miller doesn't want to ride the bench.
Ego. Right. They're not wanting to do that.
No. And you talked about wanting to be able to end on your terms.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, for a lot of guys, and myself included, I had a lot of pretty serious injuries that could have made me be like, what am I doing? And I did say, what am I doing for a couple of days? Just walk away. But I'm like, no, this is not going to be the end of my story.
Right.
This is not going to be the end.
I'm sure Rodgers and Vaughn, if you look at the teams that they're on and the ways that their seasons ended and the way that their season went in general. Yeah. They're two, in their mind, they're probably too legendary.
Oh, yeah.
To go out.
Especially
in such
Aaron.
A poor style,
Aaron, yeah.
But here's what I worry about with Aaron Rodgers as an example. Who's to say it gets any better?
Well, that's the thing. It's like chasing your money in blackjack, right? You win a bunch at the beginning, and then you start losing it, and you lose it all, and you're like, no, I gotta get it back. No, you're probably not. The tide has turned on you, man.
The perfect retirement for him would have been when his Achilles tore. Because then we never would have known. Aaron.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because then we never would have known what it could have been with the Jets. There was so much hype around him being there. There was so much buildup, so much excitement. I mean, I remember sitting down and getting ready to watch that game. I don't give a crap about the Jets, but it was Aaron Rodgers in a new uniform. This is big time.
Yeah.
That would have been the moment where he's like, if I were him, I would have said, this was a sign from God.
This is above me, right?
This was above me. Yeah. And he's very spiritual.
No, but he wants to step above God and be like, no.
You see
God
why he annoys
doesn't have
me?
the last word.
You see why he annoys me?
I'm gonna flip the script on God on this one. And so, Father Time's undefeated. Not when you're dealing with Aaron Rodgers. I
mean, that's where it's hard.
But that's where the ego, the same ego that made him so great,
of course,
is having a hard time on the end.
What makes you good makes you bad.
Because how many people doubted Aaron Rodgers before he ever became Aaron Rodgers? Everyone.
A lot.
He didn't
Everyone,
get,
yeah.
he had to go to JC,
Yeah.
junior college. He went to Cal. He got drafted at the end of that first round and got snubbed and blah, 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 blah. Spited his whole life. Nobody's ever believed in me. So why should I start listening to them now that they tell me I should walk away?
And good on him, right? Like, good on him. Good on Aaron Rodgers for silencing the doubters, ignoring the haters, and continuing to go on. But I do think at a certain point in your life, you have to just look at your situation and just say, it's not how I want it. He's too much of a control freak. He wants to have the control.
Yeah. I just
like
think
you said, he tries to step above the spiritual beings, that the Almighty. I mean, in my opinion, that Achilles injury would have been the perfect time for Aaron Rodgers to say, listen, I've been flirting with the idea of retirement for a little while now. There were many times, which I'm sure was just his way of being in the headlines, but he talked about it in Green Bay.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I'm coming back. I don't know if I'm playing ever again, actually, ever at all. I mean, he's just so right. So in my opinion, that would have been just a great opportunity for him to say, I wanted to come back. I wanted to keep playing, but clearly it's not meant for me anymore. And so now I worry that he's trying to preserve his legacy. And it's only going to get harder to do that as he keeps trying to play at the same level he's always played at, because I don't think he's capable of that anymore. I really don't. I think there's a biological clock.
It's ticking like
and it's
this.
ticking and it doesn't stop ticking.
Do you know what that movie that's from? Probably not. My Cousin Vinny, Marissa Tomei. My biological clock is ticking like this. It's a 80s, 90s movie that you have surely not seen.
For sure not. 98, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the freaking movie? You never said it.
I just said it. My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, I thought that was the part that you said before. I thought that was.
It's Joe Pesci's in that film. It's called My Cousin Vinny. Marissa Tomei.
I've never heard of it.
My biological clock is ticking like this.
Do you quote movies a lot at your house?
Nah.
You don't?
My wife is also 10 years younger than me. She hasn't seen what I've seen. You know what I mean? So and you're 20 years younger, so you definitely haven't seen any of these movies. Well, but these movies are good ones.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Like, what's your favorite movie? Isn't it like?
And you know what? When you ask and you laugh the whole time you're asking.
Because I remember you said it was before. It was.
I like it. It's She's the Man.
Oh, okay.
That's not my favorite of all time, but it's a very good one.
What's your favorite?
Hard. Probably Despicable Me.
See, that's a child's movie.
And what's the freaking problem with me liking a child's film?
Because you're an adult, Liv.
Okay, and I like the Minions, and I think Gru is awesome.
What about a drama? Like not a cartoon or a children's movie? Is there anything or a comedy that you like, or?
My dad really, really liked, and so I just grew up watching it, but Coming to America.
It's good. That's a classic.
Really good movie, classic. Yep. So that's one that I've seen that's older, but love it.
Oh, cool.
Nutty Professor.
Okay, there you go. So you're into the comedies.
Yeah, I do like comedies. I do, but I mean, Despicable Me is a comedy. I laugh.
It's a cartoon though.
It doesn't matter. It can still make me laugh. It's still a comedy.
Okay.
So you know what? Why don't you just? You know what? I'm gonna come hang out with your children because we're gonna have a very good time, and I'm sure they're gonna love the movies that I put on the TV.
That's true.
I love it. I'm the oldest of 4, 12-year age gap between me and my youngest. So there was also a lot of we watched what they wanted to watch.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, I wasn't going to turn on Law and Order SVU with
dun, dun, dun.
Right. As much as I love watching that every night.
Forensic
some of that
Files
too,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think some of that too has to do with the big sister in me was always let's pop a cartoon on. Yeah. So I loved it.
I don't watch movies anymore. The movies I'm talking about were when I watched when I was young. Now I do watch cartoons.
Yeah, see? Yeah.
You know, or whatever. So.
And if I'm a mom at any point in my life, I mean, my biological clock is ticking like this. Not really. I'm only 27, but they say 30 years old is a geriatric pregnancy, which is nuts.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, at some point I'll be popping cartoons on and I'll love them just as much as my kids.
So
they're like, Mom, can we stop watching
ready
Despicable
to be a mom.
Me? No,
they're like 18. You're like, cartoon time.
Anyway, okay, let's get into the third quarter, shall we?
Let's.
There are some concerns about some of the acquirements. Is that a word? Acquisitions is what I meant.
We could go with acquirements.
No, I don't personally think we should go with acquirements. And I actually think that if this weren't live, I would say cut that out. But it's live, and I just said acquirements. Hopefully my granddad's not watching because he's a teacher.
Well,
Actually, my mom too.
Requirements is a word.
Yeah, I just made them.
So,
I just put them both together. Something new
nothing wrong
I'm
with that.
trying out.
Nothing wrong with
It's a
that.
new thing I'm doing right now. I like to remix stuff.
All words were like not words at one point until someone made it up.
And I just made acquirement a word. So there you go. And there are some in these new acquirements that the Broncos have injury concerns.
Yep.
And that's fair, right? Dre Greenlaw, what was his Achilles?
Tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl.
And that's not a great one. That's pretty tough. That was a strange noise I just made.
Yeah.
Let's cut that out as well. And then you've got
It's
Evan
an
Ingram.
acquirement that you're gonna have to make that noise
It's an acquirement.
every show.
Evan Ingram with a shoulder. Who am I missing? From these new guys.
Hufanga.
And has he battled?
So yeah, he had an ACL in 2023,
Yeah.
and then he had a wrist injury last year.
Ah,
So he had an ACL in 2023 that caused him to miss most of that season and then some of 2024. He came back in the middle of 2024 and then he messed his wrist up and he had to miss some games there. So back-to-back seasons, Hufanga has had injury issues.
yeah.
You know, the ACL is tricky, but in a roundabout way, hurting your wrist and getting shut down can actually help the ACL heal a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And the wrist is something that you don't need your wrist to play
Blessing in
football.
disguise, perhaps?
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, obviously you need to tackle, you need to be healthy, but it's at the same time, when you do have an upper body injury or a wrist and you're rehabbing that, you can still do all the stuff with your legs. You can still stay agile and run and get your footwork back, which I'm sure Hufanga really appreciated that extra time he got dealing with the wrist to be able to get his knee, his legs right. So I think that Hufanga, I'm not too concerned about his two injuries. The ACL, of course, is a worry, but now he's 2 years removed from that. The wrist, it's a wrist. I don't see that being a big deal. Dre Greenlaw, the torn Achilles in the Super Bowl, and he was like the heart. You talk to anybody, and you talk to Debo as well about that team, the spark plug on that defense. The
Debo
psycho
talked about him all the time,
right? The psycho who's going to hit first and ask questions later and fly around and just set the tone for your defense.
Like that dude's crazy. Like Debo in lesser words or in more words would be like, he's the guy you want. It kind of reminds me of Draymond Green.
Yeah. Guy
like,
you want
you
on
hate
your
to
side.
play against, but you love to play with. And I think Dre Greenlaw brings that for sure.
And you felt the air go out of that sideline when he tore his Achilles in that game. And then the Niners started to fall apart after that. He was the heart and soul of that defense in a lot of ways. Maybe not their best player, but their hardest hitter and most energetic player. And I think that so he came back for a couple of games last year, and then they shut him down for the rest of the season. There was still some issues with that Achilles. So they wanted to be safe with it, and he just didn't play the rest of the year. So there's some mild concerns on how that's going to react. And then to me, I think Evan Ingram is the guy whose injury history is most concerning to me because he's had so many of them.
Right.
He's been banged up a lot.
Right.
And if you follow, fantasy football, and maybe you drafted him before couple very promising weeks, followed by a couple of weeks on the injury list, followed by he's questionable. He plays a little bit, but he's not effective because he was nursing this thing all week. He's the type of player who's often dealing with something. Yeah. A lot of it is soft tissue, a hamstring.
It's like it never ends.
A never-ending thing. So I think that this training staff of the Broncos definitely have their hands full with Evan Ingram in particular. But at the same time, every player gets hurt in the NFL. 100% of players get injured. And the Broncos have been remarkably good at keeping players healthy over the last couple of years. So if you are an injured player, or a player coming off of injury, and you get to decide which team you're going to, the Broncos are a really good option because of their track record at keeping guys healthy and on the field. Yeah. Now, how do they do that? We don't know. Are they spraying some magic juice on that? Is there something that they're doing and putting in the Kool-Aid that's making these guys better? Whatever it is, these Broncos have been really healthy, right? Yeah. And so it's a good destination for players dealing with injuries. The Broncos training staff is operating at a really high level. Bo Lowry, the strength performance coach, whatever that Sean Payton brought over from New Orleans, has an incredible track record in keeping guys healthy by listening to their bodies and finding a group of treatments and modalities that works for them. Anyway, I'm not really.
There's a tickle. Something's lodged.
Is that one of the acquirements for the show? Are you all right? Cut that part out too.
This entire show's a blooper reel. What the flip is going on?
This is great. This is what happens on live TV, guys. All right.
Oh my gosh.
So I guess my thing is like I'm not worried about the injured players. Like every team always dealing with injuries to an extent.
Right.
That's why you have a 53-man roster with 16 guys on the practice squad. That's why you develop depth and consistency at every position. So when a guy gets hurt, the guy behind him steps in and you don't miss a beat. That's why it's so important to have top to bottom quality football players on this team to step in when guys do get hurt.
Well, and let's also talk about the fact that of the injuries we know about, every player deals with them.
Oh, yeah.
We found out about Bo Nix's back after the game and the season was already over. We did not know that Bo Nix was going into that game with a broken back.
Yeah.
I can tell you there would be weeks that I would go film with Debo and he's got something wrapped up or he's got someone working on something right before we film. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know. And he's like, yeah, nobody does. Like, we're not talking about it. I'm fixing it. I'm handling it. I'm good.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's common. I mean, there's a lot of play. And let's be real. I think every football player is injured.
Yep.
At least once, twice, or thrice.
Yep.
In an NFL season.
And most of the times, like you said, we don't even know about it because it's just like you see them on Sunday. They're able to make it onto the field. It was a tough week for them.
Right.
You nurse it, you rehab, you take medication, you come in early for treatment, you stay afterwards. But you find a way to get out on that field and play. And a lot of that is the psychology of the coaches and the strenuousness of the practice and the lifting regimen and all that stuff goes into getting these guys ready to go. They're going to report here in a couple of weeks and start running and lifting just as a team. It's creating that base foundation. But I think the Broncos and Sean Payton in particular has the team around him that are all on the same page.
Yeah.
And moving in the right direction with these players. One of the issues that the Hackett regime had was that he didn't get to choose
one of many.
Yeah, that he didn't get to choose his own guys as far as his trainers. And Lauren Landau is an incredible trainer, but he was already there. Hackett comes in, and they're not on the same page. And like they had so many freaking injuries because Hackett had these ideas of how he wanted to structure practice, but it was about not putting a lot of pressure on the players and having these days where they could take days off. But it turns out that the football body doesn't like that. You got to keep going. You got to practice hard. That's what prepares you for the games.
Right.
If you don't practice hard, then you go on the game day and something snaps because you're not ready for it. And
I feel like with injuries, I don't want to make a generalization here, but it does feel like when you've got one injured player on a team, there's more to follow. And I think that is a product of the environment that they're in. You know, it was so easy for people to say, oh, I don't, Debo's out again, or, oh, there goes, whoever. But then you started to see the 49ers drop like flies. And it does make you wonder, okay, is this because of the back end of what you're talking about, which is the preparation, making sure their bodies are not only being rehabbed correctly, but also prepared correctly before they're smashing into other large human beings. So I do think product of your environment. So to have an overwhelming fear when you acquire somebody based on their injury history, it's normal to have the fear. It shouldn't overwhelm their talent, though. I don't think it should make us blind to the skill set that they have because they're about to be in a new environment. So I think it's one of those things where you kind of have to just see if you plant a plant into pebbles.
Planting plants.
With no soil. You give it water, you give it sunlight, even fertilizer perhaps, but it's in pebbles.
What is that accent?
I don't know. It's my plant accent. Environment matters is my point. Okay. You gotta be somewhere that makes one sense for you, but also keeps you
blooming
like a flower.
That's right.
Okay.
I agree with everything you just said. I cannot find one point to disagree with there. So.
I'm in a silly, goofy mood today. Not sure why. You know what? I didn't have coffee today.
Oh, is
not
that
okay.
Right? Why?
I've been trying to not drink coffee on an empty stomach.
Yeah.
And so this morning I made my little green smoothie and just never got around to the coffee thing. But I'm
trying to... What goes in the green smoothie?
Spinach. It's a very clean green smoothie. Spinach, pineapple, mango.
Oh.
A little agave, because I do like them a little sweet.
Yep.
Then I have these pre and probiotic powder packs that are orange flavored. And when you mix it with water, it tastes just like orange juice.
Oh.
So I put that in there. And then I put some digestive enzymes. It's called Naked Gut. Shout out Naked Gut. Put a scoop of that in there. And then I just fill it with water so that pre and probiotic turns into like OJ.
Okay.
And then I blend it up and I drink it.
Yummy.
Very clean. Very good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like smoothies with banana to me is a really important part of a smoothie. because it's texturally and it's like, peanut butter is really good.
Love peanut butter.
Like
a chocolate protein powder with some peanut butter.
A banana. You have to put banana if you're going to do the chocolate peanut butter.
But I don't understand people that just bite into
oat milk. Don't do water. Like do like some kind of nut milk. Actually, oat milk's not a nut milk because oat's not nut.
But I think people still consider it kind of like in the nut milk category.
Nut milk family.
Mm-hmm.
My question is,
I love oat milk.
Yeah, it's tasty.
Very good. It's very creamy.
Yeah, and
I hate that word.
Creamy?
Yeah, not a fan.
But so they have cashew milk. They have almond milk.
Yep. They have.
What's the next nut milk though? I wonder.
No, soy's not.
Peanut milk?
Oh my gosh, no, definitely.
Walnut milk?
They probably have it. I feel like if you like go to LA and go to one of their grocery stores, they probably have every type of, their
pistachio milk. They have.
I do. They actually do have pistachio milk. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
super good. But yeah, I do. I just do water because it makes that juice packet or that powder packet turn into like
makes
a juice.
Pop a little bit.
Makes it just do its thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no coffee today. That's why I'm in a silly, goofy mood.
All right.
Speaking of silly and goofy.
Yeah.
Sean Payton.
Ooh.
Relative to. Now we're getting into the fourth quarter, and we are talking about. He can be a little silly, goofy man relative to his surrounding cast. Maybe. Speaking of surrounding cast, AFC West.
Yeah.
Kind of stacked with some new coaches here, all of which have successful years and years and years. Their resumes are nice. All right. So you've got Harbaugh, you've got Andy Reid.
Yep.
You've got now Pete Carroll.
Yep.
Old guy.
Grandpa
Carroll, but he still knows how to coach.
Loves to just.
And Sean Payton.
Yeah.
So what is your take on where he stands in terms of
the best and the worst of the division?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say because they're all pretty good in their own way, right?
They're all old, and Sean Payton recently said that he's the youngest.
That's so weird to think about.
Yeah, and he's in his 60s. So
how old's Harbaugh?
I think he's just a little bit older than Sean.
I was gonna say Harbaugh looks pretty good for his age.
Yeah, he's a little bit older than Sean.
Okay.
Jim Harbaugh has the least amount of experience in the NFL as a head coach.
True.
He's 55, 25-1.
Okay.
Or is that 23? What did I write there?
His eyes were closed. 5
seasons. He's coached 4 with the Niners, and he made a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1 with the Chargers last year, and they did make the playoffs last year.
Yep.
Right. Sean Payton has 17 years of experience. Pete Carroll has 18 years of experience as a head coach. They both have the exact same number of wins, which means that Sean Payton's been a little better.
Uh-oh. Okay, sorry, Petey.
Pete Carroll's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won 1. Sean's been to 1. But Sean's had better teams. And then there's Andy Reid alone at the top.
Yeah, it's hard to not put Andy Reid at the number 1 pretty comfortably.
He might be closing in on most wins all time in the NFL out of all coaches. He's got 273 wins. He's been coaching for 26 seasons. So I think you got to put Andy Reid at the top of that
for sure.
list.
Have to.
And I actually think that Sean Payton's resume puts him number 2 on that list. Pete Carroll is number 3 on that list, in my opinion, and then Jim Harbaugh, just because of his inexperience compared to the other guys, is number 4. But Sean Payton has had a lot of success in this league.
Yes,
and I think he's starting to get back on track from with that success that he had in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Hopefully we can get that, but it's all about the offensive production and finding those weapons around and having a quarterback who you trust. And then of course, the Broncos defense holding up their end of the bargain, but Sean Payton is the youngest. And I think he probably has the youngest wife too. It's because Skylene is quite a lot younger than him.
How old? Can't beat Belichick's.
Oh, that's right.
New little piece.
Isn't that such a funny Did
you see him doing yoga?
Yeah.
I was like, Belichick, put your legs down. What are you doing over there?
This is the most fun I've ever had in my life. This is really special. But I mean, clearly he opens up and
so you just snap out of character immediately. Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's young.
She's 24.
Yeah, she's younger than me.
It just shows you true love knows no bounds. And sometimes, love happens in unlikely places. I mean, fell in love in a hopeless place.
That was actually pretty good.
Thank you. I wonder where they met. Tinder?
Probably one of the more like
One of some party or online?
yeah, I would say like probably like it was probably like a mutual.
Where they're both like getting food at the buffet, and he's like,
Oh, I'm talking
I
like,
guess you know,
oh, this is my friend whoever.
oh, you
Like,
don't think he like picked up on her? Like,
no,
like,
I think like one of
he hit on
like
her?
maybe one of Bill's like older friends was like, I know
I've
this
got the
younger
best-
girl.
I've got the best girl for you. He thought girl was like not literal, but it turns out
I think it's probably mutual.
he's in his 70s.
Yeah, he's an old guy.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, when they're standing next to each other, you can definitely see he's been through it.
But when they're laying down, they're the same age. No. You're
How does
supposed to
that
say you're
work?
the same height when you're laying down.
Right.
That's how the saying goes. But
Some
I'm sure Bill's
some
got
sayings, some sayings are meant to be left as they are, I think.
I'm sure Bill's got some help. You know, whatever it takes.
Anyway, I am done picturing Bill Belichick.
No, that was not what I was doing.
Oh.
No.
Well, I'm good. That's glad. I'm good. Look at me. I'm stuttering. I'm nervous. Bill, you're stressing me out.
Bill Belichick.
But
We
I
wish him
really
the best.
do-
He's the
I
head
was
coach
gonna
of the.
say,
Yeah, he's the head coach, and he's getting back to work.
I'm
after a
excited
year
to
off.
watch him.
Yeah, in college,
that era.
and college is actually undergoing quite a transformation with football. They have general managers now. They
That's
have these
crazy.
budgets. Of course, they're paying players, and so it's turning into these like de facto pro programs,
Mm-hmm.
like these minor league pro programs. And we'll see how Bill does there, if he's satisfied with it, because it's
I
not
hope
the
he
best.
is.
He's going to deal with football players that aren't like that good. I mean, compared to what he's used to.
Right.
He's used to the absolute best in the world. Now he's going to have to be, bringing along these young. I'm sure he's.
It's a new creative project.
Yeah,
for
I'm sure
him.
he's up for it. But
Woohoo.
Yeah.
Okay, 2-minute warning. How are we feeling?
Good.
What are we doing for this?
Um,
Boop, 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 boop. Okay. Do you want me to think of something for
yeah,
you?
could you?
Yeah, I could. Okay. 2-minute warning, Nate. I am going to request that you tell me why the Eagles will not go back to back.
Easy.
3,
Hit
2,
it.
1, go.
Well, the Eagles are not going to go back to back because it's one of the hardest things in the NFL to do is to win it twice. Everything has to go right for you, and really everything did go right for the Eagles this year. They were able to kind of stay out of the spotlight of the media, which actually does matter.
Yeah,
they were able to use they had some negative media attention throughout the season.
they did.
Even though they went on like a 12-game winning streak or something. They were 2-2 at one point. When they were 2-2, the whole world said, well, the whole media and fandom world said that they were dysfunctional, that Nick Sirianni should go, that he doesn't have the respect of the locker room, that blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, they just started winning games, but still that narrative didn't change for some reason. So they were able to, while winning football games, still have this motivation from they don't respect us, they don't think we're this, they don't think we're that. We're going to have to circle the wagons and come closer as a team, even though they're still finding ways to win. And they got hot at the right time. They obviously added Saquon Barkley, who was a huge piece that kind of took them to the next level. But they ended up winning the Super Bowl, and now they've lost a ton of players.
Yeah.
They've lost a ton of really good players. Who's the corner? He has like three letters. CJB or CBJ
Sauce.
or
No,
Gardner Johnson.
Something like that.
Chris Gardner Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of a heartbeat of the secondary. They lost him. They lost Josh Sweat. They lost a lot of players and still, they might even lose another guy. Like you heard trades with AJ Brown, perhaps. It's really hard to keep the band together.
It is.
And to repeat. The Chiefs were able to do it because of really the stability they had in that roster from Andy Reid being there that long. I don't see the Eagles being able to do that again, especially in a league with, teams that are coming for them and in a division that's, well, did I convince you?
Well, look at there. Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to do. Very, very, very hard. A lot of things have to go right. And as much as, listen, I was even a little, I'm going to knock on some wood here, but I was even a little surprised that we got Saquon as healthy as we did this year. We know the running backs go through, right?
Yeah.
And so my biggest concern is what version of Saquon do you get in year 2 with this Eagles team where he's a very prominent part of this offense, I think there was a lot of time in New York that he spent maybe not being utilized the way he could have been. And so He put his body through a lot. So it'll be interesting to see if he's healthy come next year.
Yeah.
'Cause he's a big reason why.
Yeah, but you got the Commanders coming for him.
Yeah.
You got the Detroit Lions.
There's a lot of teams that I think
the
are
Rams who might be good again. The Minnesota Vikings.
Yep.
Who had a very, very good season last year. And then, you never know how the Cowboys will be or
Yep.
So I think that
a lot of unknowns these
but
days.
hey, everyone's coming for you when you're the champ, and it's hard to repeat. It's the hardest thing to do in sport is to repeat a championship.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very difficult. Well, this has been another Gorilla Sports Off Court Field.
One of the acquirements.
Okay, a blooper reel needs to be made from this show. This has been another Gorilla Sports Off Field. I'm Liv Moods. That's Nate Jackson. And this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. You can head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money, getting you a better interest rate, lowering your monthly payments. Shout out to our friends at Trusted American. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.